All right, today we are diving deep under the hood to try and settle one of the biggest debates in the car world, superchargers versus turbochargers. Let's get right into it. You've definitely heard it, right? You're at a stoplight, and you hear that deep, mechanical whine from a muscle car next to you. Or maybe a sports car flies past on the highway with this high-pitched whistle. Well, those sounds aren't just for show. They're actually the signatures of two totally different ways of making a car seriously fast. So here's the bottom line. At its heart, an engine is basically just a big air pump. It pulls in air, it mixes that air with fuel, and then boom, a little explosion pushes the pistons down. Now, if you want a bigger boom, and who doesn't, the secret is to figure out how to cram way more air into that engine than it could ever possibly breathe on its own. And yeah, there's a name for this whole process. It's called forced induction. Both superchargers and turbochargers are masters of this, but they go about it in completely opposite ways. So let's start with the one that's all about brute force. The supercharger. This thing is the direct, no-nonsense member of the family. Its whole philosophy is super simple. You want more air? Okay, let's just build a giant powerful pump and bolt it right onto the engine. Done. Okay, to really get this, picture this in your head. Imagine you've attached a big, powerful fan to the wheel of your bicycle, and it's pointing right back at you. So as you pedal, the wheel turns, and that makes the fan spin. The faster you pedal, the faster the wheel turns, and the harder that fan blows air in your face. Got it? Hold on to that thought. Because that's pretty much exactly how a supercharger works. It's hooked up to the engine's main rotating part, the crankshaft, with a belt. So the second the engine starts spinning, the supercharger starts spinning with it, force-feeding air into the cylinders. The faster the engine revs, the faster the supercharger spins. It's a direct one-to-one relationship. But there's a cost. And that cost is something called parasitic loss. Think back to our bike. To make that fan spin and give you that nice breeze, you have to pedal harder, don't you? That fan is actually stealing some of your leg power. Well, a supercharger does the exact same thing to an engine. It literally uses some of the engine's own power just to spin itself. So this really lays out the core trade-off, doesn't it? On one side, you've got your effort. You have to pedal harder, which is that parasitic loss. But on the other side, you get the result. That instant cooling breeze, or in the engine's case, an immediate blast of power. And that right there is the supercharger's superpower. Because it's physically connected to the engine, that boost is always on tap. The second you touch the gas pedal, you get power. Instantly. Especially at low speeds. There's absolutely no waiting around. Okay, so now let's look at the other side of the coin. If the supercharger's all about brute force, the turbocharger is, well, it's the clever opportunist. It sees something the engine is just throwing away and says, hey, wait a minute, I can use that. Let's hop back on that bicycle one more time. But this time, forget the fan, it's not attached. Instead, as you're just cruising along, a huge gust of wind hits you from behind, a massive tailwind. All of a sudden, you're flying. But here's the thing, you're not pedaling any harder, you're getting a totally free push. And that tailwind? That's your engine's exhaust. A turbocharger takes the hot, high-pressure gas that's flying out of your tailpipe, energy that is normally just completely wasted, and uses it to spin a tiny turbine. That turbine then spins a compressor, and that's what shoves the air into the engine. Because it's running on waste energy, there's virtually no parasitic loss. It's brilliant, really. But you knew there was a catch, right? A tailwind isn't always there. You kind of have to wait for it to kick in. And it's the same with a turbo. When you slam on the gas from a low speed, the engine needs a split second to build up enough exhaust pressure to get that turbine spinning really fast. That little delay, well, that's the infamous turbo lag. So you see, a turbocharger is basically a recycling system for power. It takes something that's being thrown away, that tailwind of exhaust, and turns it into a free push from behind. It is just an incredibly clever and efficient design. So while that supercharger is the king right from a standstill, the turbocharger really comes to life when the engine is screaming at high RPMs. That's when there's a hurricane of exhaust gas to power it, and you feel that incredible, efficient surge of power. Okay, so we have two very different paths to get to the same destination, more power. So let's put them side by side and look at the fundamental choice that really defines this whole debate. You know, it really just boils down to this one question. Do you want your power right now, but at the cost of some efficiency? That's your supercharger. Or are you willing to wait just a split second for some seriously efficient power that's basically recycled? That's your turbocharger. It's the lag versus the loss. And this table just breaks it all down perfectly. Look at the power source. It's either direct engine power or waste exhaust. You can see how that directly causes the difference in efficiency. And that, in turn, is what defines the power delivery. Is it instant or is it delayed? It's why one is king at low RPMs and the other absolutely shines at high RPMs. And let's not forget where we started, those sounds. That iconic Supercharger whine is the actual sound of its gears and rotors spinning like crazy, tied directly to your engine speed. The turbo's whistle, on the other hand, that's the sound of its turbines spooling up to insane speeds. We're talking over 150,000 RPM sometimes, pushed along by nothing but hot air. So with these two completely different ways of thinking, it's pretty clear they aren't just interchangeable. These are specific tools for very specific jobs, and each one has a seriously devoted fan base. So this is it, the ultimate question. After all this, which one actually takes the crown? Which one is better? Well, the real answer is, it totally depends on what you're trying to do. If you're on Team Supercharger, you are all about instant gratification. You're probably a drag racer or a muscle car fan who wants that tire shredding, push you back in your seat torque the exact millisecond your foot hits the floor. It's all about that raw, visceral, immediate kick. But if you're on Team Turbocharger, you probably value cleverness and efficiency. This is the choice for modern cars, the thing that lets tiny little engines be super fuel efficient and pass strict emissions tests, but still give you a really satisfying punch of power when you ask for it. It's the smart, modern solution. And that kind of brings us to, well, the future. Electric cars deliver 100% of their torque instantly. There's no lag, and there's no parasitic loss. In a way, they give you the best of both worlds. So as we all start moving into this new electric era, you have to ask yourself, are we hearing the final, glorious notes of the Supercharger's whine and the turbo's whistle?